When the well is dry, we know the worth of water. For centuries, we've been told a dark story about ourselves that left to our own devices, we will ruin everything we share. A story called The Tragedy of the Commons. It says our inherent selfishness dooms any shared resource to ruin. But one woman spent her life listening to a different story. She found we aren't destined for selfishness, and her discovery changes everything. Her story begins with a puzzle in 1940s California. A shared underground water basin was being pumped dry. Experts saw only two solutions: total government control or selling it off to private owners. Both ideas assumed the locals couldn't be trusted to solve the problem themselves. But then, the water users started talking. They monitored the water levels, created their own rules, and built trust. Against all expectations, the water levels stabilized. They had solved the puzzle. For a young Elinor Ostrom, this planted a question. What if the story of our inevitable tragedy is wrong? Ostrom was an outsider, a woman in a male-dominated field, and this gave her a unique gift. She wasn't blinded by accepted theories. The dominant theory was Garrett Hardin's Tragedy of the Commons, which argued that rational self-interest always leads to collective ruin. It became gospel, but Ostrom had seen otherwise. So she did something radical. She left the armchair and went into the world. She studied communities that had successfully managed forest, fisheries, and water for centuries. Swiss villagers on alpine meadows, Spanish farmers with ancient irrigation systems. These weren't tragedies. They were quiet triumphs of cooperation. Her first lesson is this: refuse the simple, cynical answer. The academic models had left out trust, communication, and shared rules. Ostrom saw that real people were capable of crafting ingenious solutions. After decades of research, the world wanted a magic formula from her. Her answer was liberating. There is no panacea. In Nepal, she saw expensive, government-built concrete irrigation canals fail because locals had no sense of ownership. Meanwhile, the ancient, farmer-managed systems, built from mud and stone, worked perfectly. Why? Because the farmers built them and designed the rules themselves. The system grew from their shared reality. From hundreds of cases like this, she identified core design principles common to success: clear boundaries, rules that match local conditions, and ways for users to monitor their own resource. Her second lesson is that resilience lies in diversity and bottom-up solutions, not one-size-fits-all plans. In 2009, Elinor Ostrom won the Nobel Prize in economics. When asked to summarize her work, she often spoke of something you can't put in a model: trust. The tragedy model assumes a world without trust. Ostrom proved that humans are remarkable at building it. Trust is the invisible infrastructure holding successful communities together. It's built through face-to-face agreements, promises kept, and the belief that others will follow the rules if you do. This wasn't a romantic idea. It was a rigorous, evidence-based conclusion. This is her most enduring lesson. In an era of digital anonymity and polarization, her work reminds us that real change comes from small groups of people deciding to trust one another. It begins with the slow, patient, essential act of building the commons, not just managing them. Elinor Ostrom's story is a quiet revolution against cynicism. She proved that another story was not only possible, but was already being lived by ordinary people all over the world. She taught us that our greatest shared resources are not just our forest and fisheries, but our capacity for communication, ingenuity, and trust. The well, in many ways, feels like it's running dry today, but her legacy is a light in that darkness, a reminder that the power to solve our own problems and build a sustainable future has been within us all along. We just have to trust ourselves enough to use it.